MPs support Prime Minister quelling any moves to oust him. Marape says he will improve as Prime Minister. And locals fear sand mining will worsen impact of climate change.
This is National EMTV News with Dennis Horere.
Good evening, this is Wednesday's news. 4 weeks of political infighting looks to be over after what emerged in Parliament this morning. 18 members from the opposition moved back to support Prime Minister James Marape, brushing aside any moves to oust him for the top job. The much-anticipated motion of no confidence could not be moved as the government proceeded with the business of the day. Following yesterday's court ruling that rejected the government's application seeking leave to file a slip rule application and Monday's move by the opposition to announce Patrick Purari as their nominee for the Prime Minister's post, obviously some members were not happy with this and was demonstrated today on the floor of Parliament. When the bell started ringing at 10 a.m., members of Parliament walked into the chambers one by one. Sam Basil was seated next to Patrick Purari in the front opposition bench. It all dawned in when member for Kompiam Ambung, John Pundari, moved over to government. He was followed by Wesley Nukunj, Nick Kuman, Sam Akoitai and Joseph Yopi Yopi. Basil turned around from where he sat, signalled his party members, stood up and then moved, leaving Purari behind. They were all welcomed back to the government benches. After a few minutes, Basil was given back his seat next to the Prime Minister. Members of the opposition remained dumbfounded, just like October 13th, when members of the government sat confused when their colleagues, most of them ministers, moved to opposition. When all was settled, the Speaker entered the chambers and presided over the sitting with the opening prayer. Leader of Government Business Rainbow Paita, after suspending all standing orders, moved for the members of the Private Business Committee to be discharged of their duties and replaced them with new members. With numbers now on the government side, they secured the support to change these committee members. Meantime, the members who moved are Sam Basil, United Labour Party leader and member for Bulolo, John Pundari, member for Kompiam Ambung, Nick Kuman, Gumini MP, Wesley Nukunj, Day MP, Richard Masere, member for Ijivitari, Fabian Pok, North Wagi MP, member for Mosby Northeast, John Kaupa, Medang Governor Peter Yama, Sumkar MP Chris Nangoy, Lufa MP Morave Kavori, Joseph Yopi Yopi, Wasera Gawi MP, East New Britain Governor Nakikus Konga, West New Britain Governor Sasindran Mutuvel, Talasea MP Francis Maneke, Douglas Tumuriesa, member for Kiriwina Goodenough, Tomait Kapili, Lagai Pogera MP, Sam Akoitai, Central Bougainville MP, and Peter Sapia, Rai Coast MP. These 18 plus 52 MPs in government, excluding NCD Governor Poes Pakop and Speaker Job Pomat, brings the number to 70 MPs in government. The 2021 budget has now been passed for the second time, despite the opposition claiming it is still an illegal budget. The opposition raised 2 points of orders, calling for the budget process to start all over again. But according to the Speaker, through the advice of the Clerk of Parliament, the budget is still valid.
Following the changing of the Private Business Committee, the next on the agenda was the budget.
Mr. Speaker, I move that so much of the standing orders be suspended as would prevent A, Minister for Treasury presenting the 2021 budget and associated budget papers, and B, the Appropriation General Public Service Expenditure 2021.
With government having the numbers, they all agreed for the budget to be tabled.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
a few minutes into tabling the budget, and member for Alata was the first to raise a point of order, concerned that the budget books were not before them.
The bill is supposed to be tabled on the desk in front of us, and the budget books are supposed to be presented. How are we supposed to debate if notice hasn't been given, Mr. Speaker? My question is, has notice been given for the presentation of the budget?
And the books eventually came. Member for Esala, Stephen Davis, raised another point of order based on the provisions of the parliamentary standing orders.
Speaker is obligated to both sides of the House, and the Supreme Court having ruled the budget unconstitutional, it is our combined duty, honourable leaders, to you, Mr. Speaker, to pass this one bill correctly.
The opposition leader Belden Nama further attempted to stop the tabling of the budget, but all their attempts failed.
Budget is unconstitutional.
Opposition leader.
You have to start the process again, Mr. Speaker. You have to restart the process. There has to be a new date. There has to be a new date, Mr. Speaker. There has to be a new advice from the Governor General, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, Honourable Opposition Leader, upon advice now, Mr. Clark, order something in order, but budget, Mr. Treasurer, you can go ahead.
But the opposition eventually walked out of the chambers, refusing to sit through the budget session. With more than 60 MPs in the government side after member for Bulolo Sem Basil, with few other MPs crossing over to the government side, the government was able to pass again the 2021 budget.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the bill be now read a third time.
The question is that the question be now put. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The question is that the bill be now read a third time. Those in favour say aye.
Looking forward, Papua New Guinea's economy is expected to grow by 10.6% in nominal terms in 2021 and over 10% in 2022, lifting the size of our economy to 99.4 billion kina.
The budget was then passed without debate, with majority, and the parliament adjourned to the 20th of April 2021. Shamin Poriambe, National EMTV News.
It was back to Loloata to consolidate numbers and work out a way forward. The Prime Minister welcoming the 18 members who moved back and gave his assurance to coalition partners and members of Parliament that he would improve on areas that need to be addressed, as this was one reason that forced members of Parliament to revolt on November 13th. The Prime Minister adding that he will announce a full cabinet tomorrow.
The members all moved to Loloata soon after Parliament was adjourned this morning to April 20, 2021. In a media conference from Loloata, the Prime Minister said the adjournment to April 2021 is to give government time to plan well, as important government programs will start next year from April onwards.
The adjournment to April is to ensure that by January we allow schools to start, and February and March we want to attend to national census and common roll census and common roll together, so that we could prepare a cleaner, better population data for 2021, in fact leading up to 2022 elections. I think leaders of political party, prime ministerial aspirants, all need to be given a fair opportunity in a contest at 2022. And I give this commitment to all who are with me, that the reason why the caucus allowed for deferral to April 20th next year is for us to have stability in the first 2 months, so we could, or 3 months, we could attend to getting schools started and some of those key national programs that we need to do.
Marape thanked the people of PNG for their patience over the last 4 weeks.
Papuans, I do apologize for them. Voters have their say in 2022. Once you elect a member into Parliament, then that member now, based on his conscience, conducts himself on the floor of Parliament or conducts himself in the office of being a member of Parliament. So they have their choices. We can't lock up their choice. We can't lock up their freedom. That's what Section 50 of our Constitution entails.
In thanking John Purari, Sam Basil and other members of parliament who moved back to government, he said he has been in communication with these members, and while he is not perfect, he has welcomed correction from both government and other members who just joined, and he looks forward to working with renewed relationship while understanding each other.
I am privileged and blessed to have Sir John Purari and the team that has come back to us. I'm really blessed to have the Honourable Sam Basil and his team that has come back to us. I'm truly blessed to have the Pangus who left us. Their names hasn't been scraped off the Pangu rolls.
And with 70 members of parliament now in his camp, it's now time to finalise the ministerial portfolios.
Let me announce that tomorrow, based on consultation, we will put forward the permanent cabinet of our country, including the vacancies that we've been carrying for some time through acting or caretaker capacity.
Member for Bulolo, Sam Basil, thanked the Prime Minister for having open dialogue with him and listening to him, something both him and Purari commended Marape of.
I'm not ashamed to stand here to talk and tell you that this is part of our democratic process. This process sometimes happens to tell the Prime Minister of any nation that operates under the same law and the system, to tell him that, look, sometimes we don't agree on these things, but we have to agree, you have to listen to us. And I'm happy that the Prime Minister is happy, is listening to those. We've wasted, I say sorry to the group and all the groups, Papua New Guinea, that we've wasted 4 weeks of Papua New Guinea time, we've wasted 4 weeks.
This, I must say, that it's a learning curve for all of us. Yes, we have had votes of no confidences in the past, but this one, I have experienced a Prime Minister who was different in that he was willing to admit mistakes if there was any.
Meantime, Marape said his government stands firm on their priority agenda, which is to take back the resources of this country, and he will continue to pursue these. Ruth Rungula, National EMTV News.
In light of what has transpired today on the floor of Parliament, the Trade Union Congress hours later applauded the move made by the United Labour Party and the rest of the ULP cohorts for making the decision to return to government. In a news conference following the drama in Parliament, the Trade Union Congress collectively said the United Labour Party represents the Congress that represents the workers' unions of the country. Kaikoura with more.
Following yesterday's call by affiliates of the Trade Union Congress calling on the member for Bulolo and leader of the United Labour Party to move back to the government camp, so too their call being answered by what was played out on the floor of Parliament. ULP leader Sam Basil walked out of the opposition benches, taking the Deputy Prime Minister's seat to rejoin the government. Today after Parliament, the PNG Trade Union Congress held a media conference applauding the United Labour Party leader and his members for making their move, stating that it took a brave and bold decision once again for Basil to return to the government.
I'll start by congratulating Honourable Sam Basil and the United Labour Party parliamentarians for making the bold move and brave decisions to return to government. It's not easy. One has to swallow humble pie to get back to where he or she has come from. And we did that, but we did not do it without thinking about it. We did it in the interest of the Constitution and the nation.
The president highlighting that ULP was a party for the workforce and begs to make it stand with the marginalized and biggest taxpayers of the country.
Most of the decisions have been made without representation of the workforce's interest on the floor of Parliament, which has affected you, the workers. And for this reason, we take seriously the issue of where ULP stands on the floor of Parliament and where it doesn't stand.
Oddly stating as well that this should be a lesson in the virtues of trust and loyalty, and that there was no animosity towards other parties in the rank.
Let this be a lesson in the need to uphold the virtue of trust and loyalty. Initially, our men moved out because there were certain decisions that were made in the Marape government, particularly with respect to the appointment of people that did not even support the Honourable Prime Minister or vote for him, for that matter, in terms of the ministerial appointments. So there was a genuine case for disappointment there. Ironically, the very reason why we've moved back is because of the same issues of trust and loyalty. Only promising me it shows quite clearly there was a conspiracy at play.
Fellow cohort affiliate presidents expressed similar sentiments, acknowledging what played out in Parliament today and the leadership of Basil going forward. Annette Kaikoura, National EMTV News.
You're watching National EMTV News. The day's other stories when we come back. Welcome back to the news. The Oil Palm Industry Corporation has begun a massive rollout of smallholder block rehabilitation for the crop. Launched in Alotau, Milne Bay Province, the rollout signifies a new era in the commitment government is putting in to support the country's biggest agriculture export earner.
The farmers are back on their blocks, working the land and pruning the trees that produce the fruits that bring in the rewards.
You know, I'm not talking about the entire oil palm project in Milne Bay. I'm talking about the government is putting 1.2 million, and in 24 months, in 2 years, we are going to put 1.4 million in export earnings and 700,000 in terms of earnings to a farmer.
The investments are probably right this time around, with the funding going right down to the smallholder farmers. This part of a massive funding from government for the cash crop.
1.4 billion was the export earnings in 2017. Coffee alone, that's industry. Coffee in 2017. Coffee brought second highest 460 million. Oil palm brought 1.4 billion.
Oil palm remains the country's leading export earner in agriculture and, according to the authority responsible, can be the economic answer to the people if supported well.
Oil palm only give him 2 million loan. This is 2 million kina I'm long over oil palm projects around the country. Milne Bay, you are fortunate to stop in Selo. This is program long oil palm industries. You are first online look him save you.
The launch in Milne Bay is a start of a nationwide project that will branch out to other big oil palm hubs, West New Britain and Northern Province. The government funding that's been put into oil palm also includes the fixing of roads between the blocks.
What I've done is I got that money that came through the government last November, and I put it onto rehabilitating blocks, as you can see here. We've started a program in Milne Bay under 2 roads that we have maintained. We call it Road 1 is the Kaikoura Road, which we have already gone up there, and this is the Baraka Road.
Bradley Valenaki, National EMTV News.
The Purari Development Association has welcomed the National Court's decision to uphold interim orders previously obtained by the association. This is after the developer of Papua LNG, Total E&P, sought to have the orders set aside. The orders obtained by the association back in 2019 restrained the state from conducting any social mapping and landowner identification study in their area, and further restraining them from accepting any report from this area.
Land issues continue to surface in resource development areas, and the people of Gulf Province are no exception. The Purari Development Association, representing 8 tribes in the Purari Delta, have been through court battles to protect their land. They obtained a special agriculture and business lease title in 2011 over 600 hectares of land. The state cancelled this title in 2018 and awarded a title to an individual, also believed to be from that area. PDA took this to court and obtained restraining orders in November of 2019. The orders restrained the state from 1. Conducting any social mapping and landowner identification study and accepting such reports from areas covered by this SABL lease, 2. From making any determination under Section 168 and 169 of the Oil and Gas Act 1998. And 3. From commencing a development forum under Section 48 of the same Act until such time the court determines the issues before it. The court ruled last week in favor of Purari Development Association.
The court noted that the interim order preserves the status quo until the substantive matter is heard and determined. So the court refused on the basis that Total did not provide any evidence as to how the order affects them.
General Secretary of the association, Roy Evara Jr., in welcoming the court's decision, said the association was not against the developer but the state, and there was no need for Total to join as a party in the first instance.
We did it in such a way that no party is affected. The only party that will be affected is the state, and it only deals with the issue of identifying landowners, the convening of a development license, and the determining of beneficiaries or project area landowners. Those were the only parts that were restrained.
He said the gas agreement signed by the state and the developer did not favor landowners and said laws should be changed. He adds the current proposed changes to resource laws will benefit governments, both national and provincial, but not landowners directly.
We know there are others who are out there who have interest in the land, but administrative borders keep them out. We're not against them either, but we want to ensure that even though there are limitations to the manner in which social mapping is carried out within a 7-kilometer radius of the project area, ownership in Papua New Guinea is not in a box and in a straight line.
Ruth Rongola, National EMTV News.
Sumgilba LLG of Sumka district in Medang is already facing challenges with climate change and rising sea level, and mining sand from its coastline will only worsen the impacts. Director of the Piku Biodiversity Network, Yolani Amepo, explained that the shorelines act as a buffer, protecting the land and the people from storms. Martha Lewis with this report from Medang.
The coastal people of Sumgilba LLG depend on their shorelines for their daily nutritional meals, economic benefits, and for future generations. This 38-kilometer stretch of the black sandy beaches belong to more than 10,000 people from almost 25 different villages. Yolani Amepu has a biology background and is a board member to the Makata Group, an organization formed by villagers to protect the critically endangered leatherback turtles. She says the proposed sand mining would destroy natural habitats for marine life, including the people's dependence on the sea.
Okay, between the sand and, for example, the reefs, when you talk about removing sand, that's one. The other thing, where do we get our fish? Where do we go fishing, and what do we do with that fish? Fish is just one example. We eat it, we sell it, and one of the beautiful things about Papua New Guinea is that when you got money, when we don't have money, we have our land to go back to, we have our gardens to go back to. So even
Papua New Guinea sits in the Coral Triangle. PNG is one of the 6 countries with at least 500 different species of reef-building corals. Coral reefs hold diversity of fish. Once the shorelines are impacted from sand mining, people's lives and livelihoods will be directly impacted. This coastline is also a conservative area for leatherback turtles. These beaches are the prime nesting spots for these critically endangered species.
And when you look at the Coral Triangle, they have this little kind of line that shows you the hot spot. Medang just sit down nicely placed in a Coral Triangle. Once, and then because of with the Coral Triangle Initiative, our country took steps to protecting the coral reefs, not only because they were beautiful and they contribute to things like tourism, because our life and our livelihoods depend on it. But the fish on your coral reefs, most of them are not born on the coral reef. They're in what we call necessary habitats. Mama sakaremol inside on mangrove, inside on seagrass. And where do these mangroves and seagrass put their roots? Right where that shoreline is. So once you get the places that are impacted for sand mining, where the mangroves are, where the seagrass are, fish kamlo, where will it come from the moon? Where is it coming from? You are directly impacting people's lives and livelihoods.
PNG is a party to the Coral Triangle Initiative on Coral Reefs, Fisheries and Food Security in May of 2009. PNG, together with 5 other countries that make up the initiative, signed the Leaders' Declaration. Presidents and prime ministers formally adopted specific plans for food security and ocean conservation. PNG's involvement in the Coral Triangle Initiative addressed the growing threats to the region's coral reefs, fish and other marine life, including endangered species. And sand mining in Madang would be a direct contradiction to this declaration.
They are going to contradict it if they allow sand mining to take place in Sungilbar. So this message, we want to emphasize it to MRA that Larablan Blue and talk nogat na you like go ahead na talk yes alo sand mining so you plow hypocrites. You plow hypocrites so you like go ahead na giving green light lo sand mining lo take place lo Sungilbar.
Martha Luis, National MTV News, Madang.
The WOW Health Center and others within Marape are now under the management of the Marape Provincial Health Authority. This is according to Health Secretary Dr. Osborne Liko. He was responding to MTV News' query into maintenance plans for the WOW Health Center. The health infrastructure has been condemned twice already, but has seen no maintenance to date.
The Colonial WOW Health Center was first condemned in 2013 and again in 2015 over deteriorating infrastructure and health conditions. However, the center has not seen any maintenance to date. Marape's Public Health Director, Micah Yawin, said the health center was under the provincial 10-year health plan. However, COVID-19 disrupted the maintenance. The health secretary, on the other hand, said the health center is now under the management of the Marape Provincial Health Authority.
Yes, the health facilities not only in WOW, Menyama, elsewhere, comes under the Marape PHA for their assessment and to support wherever there is a need.
Dr. Liko said this is a new arrangement under the new reforms by the health department.
All the health facilities from aid posts to the health centers to district hospitals to hospitals will be under the one umbrella of the PHS. In the past it used to be the health facilities for the province comes under the provincial government, and the hospitals were under the functional grade from the department. We now amalgamated those, if you like.
Meanwhile, WOW Health Center is still providing health care to a population of over 40,000 people from 3 LLGs in WOW. We spoke to a senior health worker at the health center in October this year. He said the deteriorated state of the health infrastructure is accompanied with issues of less health workers, living conditions of the health workers, and water supply.
Napla sante me mo aus blol bokman blom mipla em condemn em no stop long desla status where man can sleep desla ogata building now em stop em one kind of desla house now.
Charlene Airy, National MTV News, Ley.
And now looking at the Nest Fund market report, the kina closed unchanged at $0.2850 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying $0.2775 $0.3628 Australian dollars, $0.2203 euro, and 28.17 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold is trading lower, coffee closed higher, cocoa closed higher, and copra closed higher. Crude oil is trading higher, palm oil closed lower, and copper closed lower. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed higher, the ASX 200 is trading higher, and the All Ordinaries is trading higher. National MTV News continues after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Turning overseas, locals watched in horror as a helicopter crashed, killing 2 people north of Kaikoura in New Zealand. 3 others are seriously injured and have been airlifted to Wellington Hospital.
The wreckage of a helicopter sitting just above the breakers on a shingle beach north of Kaikoura. The Eurocopter EC-120 with 5 people on board was coming into land at the store in Kikuringu just after midday when witnesses described seeing it spinning as it fell from the sky.
I just saw it go down, went down, there was no explosions or whatnot, just happened just out of the blue.
We just heard a bang and it all came rushing out.
Witnesses dining at the popular restaurant rushed to the scene. Finding 2 people had died, they worked to pull the 3 injured survivors from the wreckage.
It was right on the edge of the water, and so I grabbed the tractor and hooked the chopper onto the tractor and pulled it up the beach further so that it was out of harm's way.
The witnesses doing everything they could to comfort the injured.
All the locals rallied around and blankets and that sort of thing.
Just tried to get them on the beach, keep them safe, keep them warm. 3
rescue helicopters were flown here to the scene from Christchurch, Wellington and Nelson, while 2 ambulances came by road.
It was a well-organised scene, although complicated, with a number of patients and a number of emergency services there.
The 3 survivors flown to Wellington Hospital in a serious condition, where tonight they remain as this coastal community reels from a tragedy on their doorstep.
And Trukai Sports is next. Fidelis Sukina is at the sports desk.
Yes, Dennis, Hunters prepare for 2021 season, and in the local league, the Baris also envision a better 2021 season. Those stories and more in Trukai Sports when we come back.
Trukai Sports.
Good night and welcome to Trukai Sports. The SPPNG Hunters have turned their attention towards the team's defensive patterns and structure during week 2 of the preseason training. Hunters coach Matthew Church wants the players to build confidence in their abilities and systems, eventually becoming good habits on the field.
Defense will be the focus of the SP Hunters training sessions this week. Hunters coach Matthew Church stated that the preseason training squad will focus on defensive movements and patterns, working on feet and body placement, tackling technique, marker roles and responsibilities.
Pattern movement, so feet placement, and really being efficient with how we build our line speed, reloading back after the play the ball and making sure that we're nice and efficient there. We can, as footy players, we can turn the wrong way and take an extra couple of steps, but if we're doing that 300 times a game, taking by those couple of steps, there's 6, 9, 1,200 steps we don't need to be taking. So the game speed's fairly quick, so we need to make sure we're as efficient as possible and conserve energy. So just getting those movements and what we're focused on as a defensive unit.
The transfer of skills and the sharing of advice regarding playing techniques on the field by senior players with the newcomers to the Hunter system have impressed Coach Church.
They're taking the junior guys aside and having chats about little things that we're trying to do, and especially outside backs, they're meant to be really good at catching, and you score a lot of tries through kicks these days, and being able to catch off your body is something that you really need to be good at, and I guess some of our Digicel Cup guys who are new to the Hunters are still trying to catch it on their chest, but you're going to get out jumped by someone that's got their hands above their heads every time because you can't get your chest that high. So just being really good with that, and the boys have been really good at just about how to do that and how to execute that, so I'm really happy with them.
With the focus on the Hunters' attack in week 1 and defense in week 2, Coach Church plans to tie up any loose ends in week 3 of preseason training as the team moves on to game scenarios.
Now it'll be starting to put it all together in a game sense situation. So just building on the foundations that we've already put in place. I guess a construction background, so I know you're only as good as your foundations, so just slowly adding the blocks to make sure that we're doing that, we're not getting ahead of ourselves.
Haksilovai, Trukai Sports.
The Snacks Nines tournament will officially kick off tomorrow. It will be at the Lay Rugby League Oval. Teams have already registered. 32 teams will compete in the 3-day tournament. Teams come as far from Pogera, Kagua and Erave, Kimbe, Rabaul and Wewak. There are 8 pools. The tournament kicks off on Thursday and will end with finals on Saturday. Games are expected to be played with respect and discipline.
If you generally do well in the nines, you don't miss those tackles, or you don't, you think quick and react quick to certain things that happen on the field. I think you tend to play 13 aside better because it's a lot more people. So
we ensure that teams run in and out. All right, refereeing and of course ushering of team coming through here, and because it's going to be we're going to start at 8 o'clock and finish at. Last game should be at 5 o'clock, according to our draw.
And Trukai Sports continues with news on Rugby League after the break. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
And welcome back to Trukai Sports. The Central Dabaris franchise are looking at a better 2021 season after not performing well in the past 2 seasons in the Intercity Cup. Executive Director Hubert Warupi says with new programs rolling out, the franchise hopes for a bit brighter future.
The Central Dabaris Rugby League franchise has recognized the dire need for quality players after poor performance in the last 2 years in the Intercity Cup competition, Papua New Guinea's rugby league at semi-professional level. Franchise Executive Director stated this in a conference earlier today.
The last 2 years we've found that Central Province is challenged with the quality of players.
Warupi says to achieve this vision, proper systems and processes must be in place starting from the grassroots level.
We look at how we can develop the administration, how we can get proper systems and processes into place so that those leagues at the bottom level are strong. They run healthy competitions. They run active and vibrant competitions, not just 1 day or 2 day competitions, but competitions that last over 8 to 12 weeks at a minimum.
The franchise, with the support of Central Province Governor and other stakeholders, has rolled out its development plans, creating a feeder system at the heart of these plans.
Provide an avenue for Central Province players, an opportunity to progress just beyond village rugby league competitions, and that's to offer a pathway right into the Digital Cup competition, participating in the Central Dabaris franchise, and if players do well enough, they then go into the Hunters program and beyond. In that way, those players can have the opportunity to play and play well, and then use that as some sort of feeder system into the Central Dabaris system, where we draft and then further refine those players through a high-performance program that we're also looking at establishing.
Executive Director says despite the challenges faced in the last 2 years, there are greater things ahead, such as the franchise's very own club venue in the near future.
It hasn't been an easy road. It's been very challenging. We're very fortunate that we've picked up timely assistance from the Central Provincial Government to come in and identify and understand the programs that we have. Recent announcement made by Honourable Robert Agarobe, he's now looking at developing a venue up in Sogeri, which will not only be a playing venue for the club, but also house the team.
Kilawani, Trukai Sports.
And that story wraps up Trukai Sports. Dennis will be back with tonight's weather report. Bye for now.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by Moniplus, with you always.
Weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow. Regional forecast and to the southern region. Port Moresby, light shower drizzles tonight, then fine and partly cloudy morning. Popondetta, few rain showers tonight and fine partly tomorrow. To the Momase region, Lae, some rain showers and drizzles tonight and tomorrow. Vanimo, thundery showers tonight, then cloudy morning. To the New Guinea Islands region, Lorengau, a few showers tonight and fine partly cloudy tomorrow. Buka, a few showers tonight, then fine cloudy morning. And to the Highlands region, Mount Hagen, rain showers, drizzles tonight, then morning fog. Mendi and Wabeg, light rain showers and drizzles with thunder tonight and morning fog.
The weather update was proudly brought to you by MoneyPlus, with you always.
The way it is this Wednesday, the 16th of December 2020. Pleasant viewing. Good night.